I don't know how I'm going to sound after these great speakers you've heard, and I got some great ones coming up, so I'll do my best. Knowing there is a God makes all the difference in how we look at government and how we look at things around us. I just, for instance, took a little look at Genesis this morning and read through it and just jotted down a few of the things, the principles that we learn in Genesis that would make a big difference in how we look at things and how we approach government. God created the heavens and the earth right there in the beginning. That's been mentioned already tonight. But realizing that and realizing the purpose he did it for was for us to come into mortality, to gain experience, to learn how to become godly, and to be tested to see if we would obey his commandments. And I don't think it matters how many of us come here. I think he's prepared for that. So that's one thing. God created man. And in the process of doing so, right in Genesis, it explains how God gave man dominion over all the earth and commanded him to subdue it. To me, that speaks volumes on how we should view the issues of sustainability. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and he's prepared it for all of us and more, and all that we can fit on the earth will be provided for by him. God created us male God created us male and female, and commanded us to multiply and replenish the earth. He commanded us, a woman and a man, to cleave unto one another and to create a family. Given this and the previous understanding, the idea of stopping children from coming to this earth in any way just makes no sense. We know it's just wrong. There's no other way to look at it when we know that there is a God. Everything that God made was good. And God blessed and sanctified the seventh day. You know, God truly wants to bless us in every way he can. And he blesses us according to how we strive to keep his commandments. I think he has a hard time finding ways to bless us when the churches are empty and the stores are full on his Sabbath, on the Sabbath that he made for us and for a good purpose. Several times it mentions how even before man was created, he said there's no man to till the earth. I think God intended for us to work while we're here in mortality. And later on he said, by the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. Shalt thou eat bread. So I think that gives us a standard there, pure and simple, right out of the front of the Bible, on how we should approach welfare and approach life and approach our right to go out and make a living. And then we come to the point where Adam and Eve and the apple thing all happened. Well, I guess it wasn't an apple, it was the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it's obvious through this that God set up mortality, and this is the first example of it, so that we would have choices. And he set it up that we would know good and evil. And he set it up that we would make our choices and have to live by the consequences. There were consequences for Adam and Eve. It actually turned out good for all of us, but there were consequences for the actions. We learn from Genesis chapter 4 that we should worship God. It talks about the offerings that Cain and Abel made, and gives us a hint into how they were worshiping God, which gets explained more later in the Bible. It gets explained how mankind was given a knowledge of good and evil, how Satan came into place tempting, and how we're supposed to deal with that. Again, we make our choices. We have to accept the consequences. I think knowing there is a God is one step. Believing Him, that He really wants to bless us when He says it over and over. Knock and it shall be opened. Seek and ye shall find. Pay your tithes and I'll open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. Over and over again He talks about how He wants to bless us. He also talks about, like was mentioned in Deuteronomy 28, what's going to happen if we don't. He lines out the consequences if we don't. Trusting time. I'll make it short. There's probably not, anyway. I wasn't one of the major ones. Let me just tell you that I know God lives. I know He loves us, and I know we're His children. And we need to treat one another like that. We need to trust God, believe in Him, follow His commandments. And I hope I would be worthy, if there's anybody here that can vote for me, be worthy of being considered to represent you in the 32nd Legislative District.